That filthy mutt isn't staying in this house. My father's voice boomed through our pristine living room. I stood my ground, holding the trembling German Shepherd mix I'd found in the rain. He was hit by a car, Dad. He needs help. My name is Emma Sullivan, and at 22, I never expected a wounded stray dog to completely change the course of my life. I don't care if it was hit by a train. My mother chimed in, wrinkling her nose at the wet dog smell. We have white carpets, Emma. Designer furniture. This isn't a shelter. The dog whimpered, pressing closer to me. His brown eyes looked up at me with such trust, despite the obvious pain from his injured leg. I found him limping along the highway in the pouring rain, and there was no way I could just leave him there. He needs surgery, I explained, trying to keep my voice steady. The vet said it would cost about $3,000. I can use my savings. Your savings? My father cut me off, his face turning red. The money you're supposed to use for grad school? Absolutely not. Take it to the pound. If they can't help it, that's not our problem. I looked down at the dog, who despite his injury had stopped shaking and was now gently licking my hand. Something about his quiet resilience touched my heart in a way I couldn't explain. His name is Max, I said quietly, and I'm not taking him to the pound. My father's expression hardened. Then you can both get out of my house. James, my mother gasped, more from surprise at the scene he was causing than actual concern for me. I mean it, he continued, pointing at the door. That mutt or this house. Choose. I stood there, holding Max, thinking about everything this moment meant. The comfortable life I'd always known, my parents' support, the security of having a safety net. All of it hanging in the balance because of one injured dog. Emma, don't be ridiculous, my mother pleaded, but I could see she was more worried about the carpet than me. Just let the dog go. Think about your future. I was thinking about my future. I was thinking about the kind of person I wanted to be, the kind of life I wanted to live. Looking into Max's trusting eyes, I made my choice. I choose Max. The silence that followed was deafening. My father's face went from red to purple. Get out, he spat. Don't bother coming back until you've grown up and learned some respect. I climbed the stairs to my room, still carrying Max. With one hand, I packed a bag, clothes, my laptop, important documents, and the emergency cash I kept hidden in my desk. My hands were shaking, but my resolve was firm. As I walked out of my childhood home that night, my mother called after me, "You're making a huge mistake, Emma. That dog will ruin your life." She couldn't have been more wrong. I drove to my best friend Olivia's apartment, where she took one look at me, Max, and my hastily packed bag, and immediately offered her couch. You can stay as long as you need, she said, already gathering towels to dry Max off. The next morning, I took Max to the vet, emptying my savings account for his surgery. The procedure was successful, and as I sat in the waiting room, I started making plans. I had a degree in veterinary technology that I'd gotten despite my parents' disapproval. They'd wanted me to go to law school like my father. Dr. Anderson, the vet who performed Max's surgery, came out to update me. As we discussed Max's recovery, she mentioned they were looking for a new vet tech. Someone who really cares about animals, she said, giving me a meaningful look. Someone who would choose helping a dog over their own comfort. By the end of the week, I had a job at the clinic. It didn't pay much, but combined with my savings, it was enough to rent a tiny studio apartment that allowed pets. Max's leg healed beautifully, and he turned out to be the most loving, loyal companion I could have asked for. My parents didn't call, didn't check to see if I was okay. They simply erased me from their lives as easily as they would have erased Max's paw prints from their precious carpet. But here's the thing about choosing kindness over comfort. It has a way of opening doors you never knew existed. What I didn't know then, as I settled into my new life with Max, was that this was just the beginning of an amazing journey. Little did my parents know that their tough love lesson would lead me down a path they never expected, one that would make them regret their ultimatum in ways they couldn't imagine. Because Max wasn't just a stray dog, he was the first step towards something much bigger than any of us could have predicted. And 15 years later, when they showed up at my door, they would understand exactly what they had thrown away that rainy night. The changes started small. Word spread around the clinic about the tech who could calm even the most anxious animals. Max would lay quietly beside me during appointments, his presence somehow soothing other dogs. Dr. Anderson began letting me handle more difficult cases, noticing how animals responded to my gentle approach. "You have a gift, Emma," she told me one evening as I finished calming a particularly aggressive rescue dog. "Have you ever thought about specialized training in animal behavioral therapy?" I hadn't, but the idea took root. With Max as my first success story, I started taking online courses in animal behavior while working full-time. My tiny apartment became a study hall at night, with Max curled up beside me as I learned about psychological rehabilitation for traumatized animals. 3 years after being kicked out, I received my certification. Around the same time, a local millionaire brought in his troubled Great Dane. The dog had severe anxiety issues and had been deemed unfixable by several trainers. Using the techniques I'd learned combined with Max's calming presence, I helped transform the dog's behavior. The millionaire was impressed. "You should open your own rehabilitation center," he said, watching his formerly aggressive dog play gently with Max. "I know several people who would pay good money for your services." That conversation changed everything. The man, Mr. Harrison, became my first investor. He helped me secure a small property just outside the city, 5 acres with a modest house and enough land to build proper facilities for animal rehabilitation. I named it Second Chance's Animal Rehabilitation Center. Within 2 years, we had a waiting list of clients. Rich pet owners, rescue organizations, even the police department's K-9 unit started sending us their challenging cases. Max became the heart of the operation. He had an instinct for troubled animals, often lying down beside anxious dogs or standing protectively near abused ones. The local paper did a feature story about us, calling Max the therapy dog's therapist. Through it all, I heard nothing from my parents. Occasionally, Olivia would update me on family news she heard through mutual friends. My father had become a senior partner at his law firm. My mother was still active in her country club circles. They had redecorated the house, replacing that precious white carpet with something even more expensive. 7 years after I left, I received an invitation to my cousin Kate's wedding. I decided to go, bringing Olivia as my +1. Max stayed behind, watching over the rehabilitation center with my trusted staff. Walking into the country club ballroom, I felt my parents' eyes on me immediately. I changed. Gone was the timid girl they'd thrown out. In her place stood a successful business owner, confident in her own skin. My mother approached first, her smile tight. "Emma, you look, well," she glanced around. "At least you didn't bring that dog. His name is Max, Mom, and he's busy running my multi-million-dollar rehabilitation center." Her smile faltered. My father, overhearing, nearly choked on his champagne. "Multi-million?" he sputtered. "That's impossible. You work at a vet clinic." I handed him my business card, enjoying the way his eyes widened at the embossed logo. "Actually, I own the largest animal rehabilitation center on the East Coast. We have contracts with police departments in 3 states and a 2-year waiting list for private clients." Before they could respond, Mr. Harrison appeared. "Emma, I was hoping I'd see you here. Listen, about that expansion we discussed, I have some investors who are very interested." I excused myself, leaving my parents standing there, watching as one of the city's wealthiest men eagerly discussed business plans with their cast-off daughter. Later that evening, I overheard my mother telling her friends, "Of course we always supported Emma's love of animals. We knew she was destined for great things." I had to laugh at the irony. The dog they called a mutt had helped me build something extraordinary. The choice they thought would ruin my life had actually saved it. But the real test of their change of heart was yet to come. Because what they didn't know was that fate had a twisted sense of humor, and their perfect world was about to crumble in ways they never expected. As I drove home from the wedding, I received an urgent call from my attorney. "Emma, you might want to sit down for this," he said. "Remember that property your parents' law firm has been trying to develop? Well, there's been a rather interesting development." I smiled, thinking of Max waiting for me at home, still helping troubled souls find their way. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about proving them wrong in ways they never saw coming. The interesting development was a zoning issue that had forced my father's law firm to abandon their multi-million-dollar development project. The property they planned to build luxury condos on was now worthless to them, but perfect for what I had in mind. "They need to sell quickly," my attorney explained. "The firm's reputation is on the line. Your father's handling the sale personally." I leaned back in my office chair, Max's gray muzzle resting on my knee. He might have been older now, but his eyes still held the same wisdom that had drawn me to him 15 years ago. Make them an offer, I said, but don't let them know it's from me. 2 weeks later, my parents' world imploded. The law firm's biggest project had failed, taking my father's shot at managing partner with it. Then their house flooded. Apparently, those expensive renovations hadn't included updating the ancient plumbing system. Insurance wouldn't cover most of the damage, and with the development project's failure hanging over him, my father's position at the firm became precarious. I heard all this from Olivia, who'd remained my connection to family gossip. They had to move out of the house while it's being repaired, she told me. But they're having trouble finding a place to stay. Apparently, your mom's burned a lot of bridges at the country club. That evening, as I walked the grounds of Second Chances with Max, I made a decision. I pulled out my phone and called my mother for the first time in 15 years. Hello? Her voice was strained, missing its usual polished tone. Mom, it's Emma. Silence then. Emma? Why are you calling? I heard about the house. I have a property with a furnished guest house. You and Dad can stay there while your house is being repaired. More silence. I could practically hear her weighing her pride against her desperation. Where is this property? She finally asked. The old Riverside plot. The development project, but that's... She stopped, realization dawning. You bought it. Yes. The guest house is available if you need it. The next day, my parents arrived at Second Chances. They stood in the driveway, taking in the sprawling facilities, the state-of-the-art rehabilitation centers, and the pristine grounds that had once been their failed development project. Max sat beside me as I greeted them, his gray face dignified, his posture regal despite his age. My father couldn't seem to stop staring at him. This is all because of that dog, he asked, gesturing at the property. No, Dad. This is because you threw me out over that dog. Best thing you ever did for me, actually. My mother touched my arm hesitantly. Emma, we were wrong. We were so wrong. I know, I said simply. The guest house is this way. Over the next few weeks, my parents witnessed what their mistake had built. They saw police officers bringing in canine units for training, watched wealthy clients arrive in luxury cars seeking help for their troubled pets, and observed how Max, even in his senior years, still helped scared animals find their courage. One evening, I found my father sitting with Max in the garden. The old dog had his head in my father's lap, and to my surprise, there were tears in my father's eyes. He's extraordinary, my father said quietly. Just like his owner. My mother started volunteering at the center, her designer clothes replaced with practical workwear. She had a particular talent for soothing nervous cats, something that amused all of us. When their house was finally repaired, they didn't rush to leave. Instead, my father asked if they could stay on as volunteers. We've missed so much, he said. So many years we can't get back. Let us be part of this, part of your life. Max lived to be 17, passing peacefully in his sleep one autumn evening. My parents were there with me, grieving not just for the dog they'd once rejected, but for all the years they'd lost because of their prejudice. We buried him under his favorite tree on the property. The next spring, we opened the Max Sullivan Memorial Wing, specializing in rehabilitation for senior and special needs animals. My mother now runs our senior dog program. My father retired from law and handles our legal work, ensuring other animals get their second chances. The white carpet and designer furniture are distant memories, replaced by dog beds and pet-friendly furnishings in their new home near the center. Sometimes, on quiet evenings, I sit under Max's tree and think about that rainy night 15 years ago. One choice, one moment of standing up for what I believed was right, changed everything. My parents often say they regret their ultimatum, but I don't. Without their rejection, I might never have found my true path. Max might never have helped hundreds of other animals heal. Sometimes the hardest choices lead us exactly where we're meant to be.